Many Medicines is recorded on Treaty 8 territory, the unceded lands of the Métis and the homelands of the Cree and Dene peoples. It is an honor to live and work upon these lands, and through this podcast we commit to uplifting Indigenous voices, sharing stories with respect, and walking in a good way with both the community and the land. Tansei, hello and welcome to Many Medicines, the intersection of art, culture, and healing. My name is Stacy Grant, and I am a Métis artist and educator here in Nistawayu, also known as Fort McMurray Wood Buffalo in northeastern Alberta. I created this podcast as a way to make a space where stories are served and honored rather than extracted. I thought it was important for youth to be able to have a place that they could look to where maybe there was a path that they're walking where they needed to see that reflected, or even just to see somebody looking like them. Thank you for being here and enjoy the show. Tansei, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
My name is Claire Antoine. Antoine's my married name. My maiden name is Bolio. I'm originally from Fort Smith, Northwest Territories. Born on my parents' trapline originally. I'm a 60s Scoop survivor for 12 years. Moved back home, back on the trapline, and reconnected with my culture. And, so I'm a Cree Dene Métis, so I always say I represent everybody. That kind of lightens the air and everybody laughs about that. But so I'm descended from Francois Beaulieu II, who's the founding father of the Métis and the NWT. And he's got quite the story out there. So where am I today? I've traveled a lot, and for the longest time I always questioned what my purpose was. And I think because I had to go through a lot of experiences in order to do what I do today. So I am now knowledge keeper at the Nistawayu Association Friendship Center, and I share a lot of what knowledge I gained throughout my life experiences until now. I'm now 63. So it's taken me this long to get where I am now. And I'm still learning.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing though, to keep learning, to be a learner every day and also be teaching others along the way. How do you feel like your early life has shaped what you do now?
Myself and my two sisters were taken from my parents. We were separated as siblings. My youngest sister was adopted out without my parents' knowledge or consent. She was 2, I was 4, my older sister was 7. They put us in a receiving home, and a receiving home is sort of like an orphanage where they put all the kids and then they send them out to foster care. Yeah. And most of the foster homes I lived in, I lived in them within maybe a year. And usually you go back to the receiving home. I can't really say that, I always had this dream that I always would go home. That was my thing. You do get attached to certain people, but over time, when they send you back and, you question why they didn't love you enough to keep you. So I did actually go through abandonment issues. At the time, I didn't understand it until I got older and I was able to deal with those kind of situations. I lived in homes where there was, physical abuse. There were people, and I carried hate around for the longest time. But then I realized as I got older, carrying that hate around was only making myself miserable. So I learned to let go of that hate. I think because growing up with so many children in foster care, so many children that were in the receiving home, kids that were taken from other communities in the Northwest Territories and were all sent there, we were basically in the same situation, same boat. So that was my family. Those kids were my family.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where, you know, if you were put in a foster home or you didn't like it, you know, there's always ways to get out of there. You can misbehave or they'll send you back because they just can't deal with you anymore. So sometimes that was a good thing because, you know, you're back with your other family.
Yeah.
So I think living that way, I really developed, what's the word? I learned to empathize with kids. Yeah. Now when I work in my role in the Friendship Center, we do, you know, have foster kids that come to the program to connect with their culture. And those are the ones I really kind of gravitate towards because I can feel what they've been going through. And sometimes those stories are not happy stories, but in the end, there was a young lady that I would come and I knew she wasn't happy in the home she was living in. And I just saw her last year and she's now living with an older cousin. She's very happy. And that makes me happy. Because the one thing I found about living in foster care is you don't have a voice. You know, you have the social worker coming for a visit. They're asking you questions. I think the only thing they have on their mind is being able to put their quota in homes and not worry about what this child is going through. So it didn't matter what you said.
Yeah.
It fell on deaf ears.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, we didn't have a voice. So for 12 years I lived in places, so I kind of like was living my own life.
Yes.
You build walls around you, you don't let people in, and that way you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not a good thing. After having my children, when they're young, yes, they're cuddly, you want to hug. It's when they're older, like, I can't get that where you go and hug. Like, you see families, like, mothers hugging and telling their children how much they love you. Now it's become like the norm because everybody does it. You know, you're talking on the phone, love you, bye.
Yeah.
But do they really mean it?
Yeah.
So I found that it was kind of a little different for me. And maybe my kids thought I was kind of standoffish, but that's just me. I explained to them I didn't grow up with a mother and father. Yeah. I didn't get that unconditional love. I think I want people to understand, you know, there are so many kids out there, and what was it they said? There's like 44,000 Indigenous children in care now. Whether they're there for a reason or whether they just thought again, like, this is the best thing possible. I always explain to people it wasn't anything that we did wrong. It's just they thought, and they couldn't see our perspective, the way we lived. I always tell people we were nomads in this area. We traveled, you know, went to fishing grounds. They hunted. They went to their trap lines. You couldn't drag all these material things with you. You know, that would not make sense.
Yeah.
So the way we lived was very simple, but we had everything.
Yeah.
Everything was provided to us through Mother Nature. Yeah. So whether they thought we were living in poverty, but I'll tell you something. Living on the trap line, we never went hungry.
Yeah.
My mother always had a big garden. My dad always had moose meat. We always had a net, whether it was winter or summer. We always had fresh fish. We always had berries. We would get people from town coming in because they had no groceries.
Yeah.
Coming to see my parents for fish, meat, and vegetables. Now that tells you something. I always tell people, like, you think you have freedom, but you don't. You're living in a box within a box.
Yes.
When we were living on the trapline, we were free.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about people judging us or how we looked, you know. There's so much I could talk about, like, you know, throughout my years. So the last 5 years, I lived in a group, all-girls group home. And the group home parents, they were really great. They were a young, little hippie couple.
Yeah.
They were into organic gardening, canoeing, camping, all that stuff I love to do.
Yeah.
So the group home mother was also had a green thumb, so she always had beautiful flowers. She knew, you know, mushrooms. So I think that's when it started. My interest in plants came about. But I do have memories of picking berries when I was a toddler.
Yeah.
Some of the memories I had were a little off, because when I moved back home, and I used to think, oh, maybe that trail was this way, but it was actually there, but that what trail was there. So my memories weren't all that off. And so when I lived there, we lived 2 doors down from the chief park naturalist. So Fort Smith, of course, is the headquarters for Buffalo National Park.
Yes.
So there was a position in his department for summer student. Back in the 70s, there was so much money for all these little summer jobs and stuff. Today, it's a little bit different, but so it was a kind of a clerk type as I go in, and back then they took a lot of pictures. They would do bison creeps, hikes, and a lot of presentations. So they would take a lot of pictures, and I would catalog them.
Yeah.
And their library also. So I got really interested in what they were doing, and I was getting into the art then too. So I started fiddling around with their postings and creating my own Indigenous style postings for their events, and they noticed. So at that time, they were deciding what to do with the bison in the park, you know. So they had a bison management committee, and there's some that came from Winnipeg. That was their headquarters, and they encouraged me with my art, and I was sent to Winnipeg to work with their art people.
Wow.
To create this poster. I actually have one poster. I should actually show you this at home.
Yeah.
So it's based on somebody on a bison creep. So what they did is actually you're not creeping up on bison.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually, what they do is they will go in a meadow, and there's bison wallows where they wallow in the dust for the bugs. Yeah. And you're on the outskirts where the trees are, and you just basically watch them. I think that was my first big introduction to the art world.
Yes.
And at that time, I worked a lot with drafting pens. And that was so interesting. So I was able to go there, their team. I was only, 18 at the time. Yeah. And they gave me some advice, and it was really neat. And I love Winnipeg. If you ever get a chance to go to Winnipeg, they have so many art galleries out there, and so much Indigenous art. The museum out there, beautiful. So when I was 16, the group home parents, their contract was up, and they got another set of group home parents, which I don't like change. Yeah. So I wasn't too happy with that, and I had little arguments with one of the girls, and they heard, the group home parents heard it. It was just in January, the beginning of January, we were doing exams. I was in grade 10, and they sat me down and told me, maybe smarten up or get out, sort of thing. And they asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go home.
Yeah.
So they talked to my social worker, and he agreed I could go home. So I was so happy.
Yeah.
And I packed up my stuff, and my parents were in town. We got on the plane, and we went to the trapline up in Hanging River.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction. My older sister was already at home. And my cousin Louis, who was my first cousin and was like a brother to me, he lived with my parents on the trapline.
Okay.
So it was really a learning experience. Not only that, it was like I had to work twice as hard to prove that I could do it, because you're trying to fit back in a place that you don't really fit in anymore. You know, I've been conditioned sort of to live the colonizer way.
Yeah.
So it took a bit more for me to prove that I could do just as well as anybody else on the trapline. I could hunt, I could trap. And so, yeah, I went through a lot of teasing.
Yeah.
One of the times was my first Connie bear trap.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned how to set the number ones and, you know, catch rats and set rabbit snares. And even that was like a learning experience, because I had to learn all about protocol when it came to hunting rabbits. My mom would say, you cannot kill a rabbit by hitting it on its head. That's bad luck. That's disrespectful.
Yeah.
So you have to reach under their rib cage and pull their heart down. So I go and check my snares, and there's a live rabbit. There's no way that I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So I walk home with this live rabbit.
Yeah.
Just so that my mother could do the honors.
I would do the same thing.
So after that, I always carried a 22 with me.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, the Connie bear trap. So in the spring, in Hanging Eyes, we have a lot of what we call prairies, because it's mainly wet grassland.
Okay.
And some spruce bluffs here and there, and it's a small river. So along where our dock is, there's a little runway. So rats have runways where they swim, and they're a little bit deep, just like where beavers go in.
Yeah.
So my cousin Louis tells me, well, this is a good place to put a Connie bear trap. So he puts it in the water, and we set it, and then I go to check it the next day, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a rat there, a muskrat.
Yeah.
So I go and check, and here there's a jackfish in there.
Oh.
I haven't heard the end of that one.
Yeah. Well, that must be a little bit of luck, though. I've never heard of that happening.
Yeah.
So, something cool happened there.
That was neat, but, you know, I got some teasing out of that one.
Yeah.
So I was really, you know, very inquisitive. I would always ask my mom, my dad, how did they do this? How did they do that? So I would ask, how did they make soap? And then my mom said, well, they use the ashes. Of course, my sister, she was a prankster. Oh, yeah. She said, you know what's good for acne? She said, ashes. So here I am rubbing ashes on my face, because I really believe, because as a teenager, I was breaking out.
Yeah.
And my mother comes home from checking her stairs. What are you doing?
Oh, sisterhood.
Anyways, I learned later on that, you know, soaking the ashes in water brings out the lye, which is not good for your skin. It can actually be very harsh.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there's a lot of that. So it was a learning process. But I'll tell you, growing up in homes where everybody had their own room, you know, and I see that now today too, like going and living in housing, public housing, and they stipulate, well, everybody should have a separate rooms, and girls and boys shouldn't share, like even if they're young.
Yeah.
But we lived in a one-room cabin. There was 5 of us. It was the happiest time in my life.
Yeah.
There was never any arguments. Of course, we're not sitting there, not doing everything all day long.
Yeah.
You know, you get up in the morning, you have breakfast, you're happy, and everybody's off doing whatever they have to do. Like if we have to go haul wood or water for the day, or my dad's got to go on a long trip to check his traps, or we're going to check our traps or our snares. You know, we were always doing something.
Yeah.
Or if we had moose or fish, those had to be prepped. The dogs had to be fed. You had to have grass for them. So you were always doing things. And so you never really were together all the time. But in the evening when it's dark now, it's like that's the time where you're sitting together.
Yeah.
And you're sharing stories. My mother would be sewing because she would tan her own hides, and then she sewed moccasins and slippers, and she had all the skills. She was very traditional. She grew up on the trapline. She talks about how she never went to the hospital. Her mother would never take her to the hospital because they lived out in the trapline. All the knowledge that my grandmother knew about medicines was passed on from her parents and so forth. So it was passed on to my mother. So my mother never spoke very good English. She spoke very basic English. And here's me just coming in from high school thinking I was so smart because language was one of my favorite subjects. So knowing these big words and understanding what they meant, and it meant nothing to my mother because she could not understand what the heck I was saying.
Yeah.
It was a very humbling experience, but something I needed to learn to, to realize that I don't have to use those big words in order to be understood.
Yeah.
You're more understood if you can speak as simple as possible.
Yeah.
And learning about the plants and going with my mother on checking snares or picking berries, because she didn't know the English word to the plant, she would always point at them and tell me what they were used for.
Yeah.
So I didn't learn the name of those plants until later on when I got more into it. Then I started learning what they were. But yeah, that was the first thing, was what they looked like, what they smelled like, and what they were used for.
Do you find you carry the teaching modality that your mom had into the way that you teach youth and community members now, where you do focus on those tactile pieces while you're teaching them?
I do, because when we talk about traditional families, and one of the things I did notice was how we were conditioned to believe that we have to send our elders to homes.
Yeah.
And I worked in a seniors home before I moved here. And one of the things, the saddest things I ever seen was having elders in that home where they were just left and forgotten about.
Yeah.
And the only time they would get visitors was like Mother's Day or pension day.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it was so sad because there was this one elderly lady, she was bedridden. She didn't speak English, but she always wanted company. And there was only one staff at a time working on weekends, so there was other elders I had to tend to. So I didn't have time to spend much time with either one of them. Especially coming to Fort McMurray, and it's such a diverse place. You see how other ethnic groups, their grandparents are a vital part of the family unit. And that's the way it was with Indigenous people. We've just been conditioned to not think that way again.
Yeah.
And I think now we're coming together, and when I do my teachings, and I think I was a former youth coordinator, and one of the programs I did was a cooking class for the youth. So a lot of times the youth would come with either family member or grandparents.
Yeah.
And the parents would be sitting on the table, at the tables, talking. And the kids would serve the parents and the adults. It was just this great connection.
Yeah.
And you could just see the confidence in the kids once they cooked something and were serving the adults and bringing them together. And not one time did I see a phone out.
Yes.
And just having those conversations.
Yeah.
And having elders there. And I thought, this is a great thing. This should be a family event, not just a youth event.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to my boss and I said, we should call it a family night. And that's where family night came about.
Yeah.
And it's really important because learning about the medicine wheel and the dynamics of it, where the youth and the elders are across from each other because they're supposed to be together.
Yes.
Because as elders and grandparents, the knowledge that they have and the contributions they make to help raising those children while the parents are off working, whatever, they're able to still pass on that knowledge to the youth.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really important. And one of the things I found now that I'm raising my 2 youngest grandchildren, and I did it with my own kids, because I feel it's really important to spend quality time with your children, not just sitting there.
Not just being around them. Yeah.
And because I always say, you want to make memories that they'll, look fondly on. It's like even my own daughter, my oldest daughter, she has now 3 kids of her own. And she said, Mom, we were just sitting in a big field of dandelions and making dandelion crowns. And her oldest daughter asked her, where did she learn to make those? She said, my mom used to do the same thing. We'd go sit in the field of dandelions and make crowns too. So it's good to see that being passed on and sharing those good memories.
Yeah, and that it was a value that stuck. And now your grandkids get to have that with their mom, but it's a piece of you that gets to go with them as well.
And I think because kids are like little sponges. I find teaching kids so much more rewarding than trying to teach adults. Adults want to be perfectionists the first time they do something. And I always say, you're learning for the first time.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to be perfect, but as long as you learn the technique, then you can go off and practice and make hundreds.
Yeah.
Kids, they just go with the flow. They're not afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah. They're just there to experience the joy and have the new experience and, be in the presence of someone who is present.
So part of it is not only just because I can relate to kids, but years back I'd gone back to college and I was taking business management studies. And my kids were younger, but I had a younger daughter also who was born with asthma, and we lived in a duplex with a furnace, so dust was flying everywhere. Every night I would have to go and sit her up. She was on inhalers, but everything triggered her: dust, the cold air. So we would go and visit my mother across the river on the trapline, and she would go and pick the creeping juniper and made some tea. And she gave it to my daughter, and she told me how to make it, and this is what you do. And it actually helped her cough. It calmed it off, calmed her cough down, and actually helped get rid of that excess mucus.
Good.
And I thought, that is so great, because she's been taking inhalers, and they're expensive. I couldn't afford them as a single mother at the time. And the doctor had to write a letter for territorial government to able to pay for them, because they just one pill alone was like $100. So it was so great to see that the medicines that my mother knew about actually helped a lot better
Yes.
than those little pills that she had to take.
Yeah, for sure.
So I find, not only in that way, but, sometimes I think, like when I was teaching my own children and saying, okay, this and this, as we're walking, the way my mother taught me,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I would think like, oh, they're not paying attention.
Mm.
But there's been times where we'll say something and my son will come up and say, the reason why this doesn't work is because this and this. Oh, so you have been listening.
Yeah.
And with kids, it's for them, there's certain ways you can engage and you open their eyes to things that they walk on every day.
Yes.
I asked them about a dandelion. It's a weed. That's because they've been conditioned to think it's a weed and it's no good. And then I talk about the dandelion and how beneficial it is for you, and it's medicinal, it's edible. And we talk about the pineapple weed and how it smells like pineapple, and they get to smell it, and just to see their eyes open with wonderment is like, that's so heartfelt. Like, you're awakened something in them.
Yes.
And that interest is there. They get to taste the nectar from the red clover. It's more rewarding for me, I think, than for the kids.
Well, I always say when I work with kids, I find they're my greatest teacher because they teach me to lean into the curiosity again. Where sometimes when we've known something for so long, that's old news to us and it's still a marvel and it's wonderful that the world can do that. But to see the way that they light up where they, pineapple weed being a big one, that's just a weed on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No.
Right? So.
Yeah, and I get a kick out of them too, because even the older ones, like, you get into the, like, grade 5s and that.
Yes.
And we're talking about plants, and sometimes, you always, or berries, especially with berries, and then you get the ones that just want to get the first taste, so they'll jump in there. So it's a hawthorn tree, and he jumps there and he gets poked, and he says, why didn't you tell me that? And I said, well, you know what, you should always observe your surroundings. I said, don't go jumping. How do you know there's not a wild animal behind that bush?
Yeah.
So that was a lesson in learning there.
Yeah.
So everything is a lesson.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you're doing. There was another one, and we were talking about poplar bud oil. And he said, oh, I could just drink that whole thing, young boys are.
Yeah.
I said, no, that took a lot of work to make that.
Yeah.
I said, but if you really want to taste it, so we had some branches there with the buds. Why don't you try that one?
Yeah.
That bud there. So it's a hot bitter. It's good for your sore throat, but he learned not to, these are things that you don't play around with.
Yeah.
It does not taste the greatest.
Yeah.